game has changed so much in such a short period of time. Talk about how you've had to evolve your game. Obviously, you talked about it a little bit earlier with, having to be good with your feet technically as an outfield player, but how have you been able to evolve your game and adapt to the modern day game?
I think that I see the game differently now in terms of basically how teams set up and where those spaces uh, uh, that they are exposing might be, right? Or that they might be showing. So for me, the the thing that I would say that has evolved mostly is just my tactical awareness in terms of how to play the game because I'm more involved with my feet now, and so then a lot of the times is okay. Can I be patient enough to draw in the pressure from the forward so that that liberates maybe a midfielder, and I can use my center midfielder to bounce out to the center back, right? And so all these things you kind of have to maybe read a lot more quickly than perhaps in the past. And so I would say that the biggest way that I have evolved is just having more tactical awareness in how teams move, how they place themselves on the field, and seeing what spaces I or my teammates can exploit, and having those conversations around those space, those other teams to be able to face them and confront them and beat them ultimately.
Yeah. Have you had to change your technique in terms of your goalkeeping? I've spoken to a lot of goalkeeper coaches, and they're like very adamant about certain techniques on how to play. But have you had to adjust at all? Or are you kind of like at this point, you are who you are, and that's your technique, and you're not going to change? Or have you adapted and changed? Even something as small as the way you dive for a ball.
Yeah, I definitely adapted, and the reason why I've um, stayed open to adapt is because it's not set in stone. At least for in football, because it's so free flowing. I don't think that there's necessarily just one answer. You could be taught to take a touch one way or take a touch a certain way to be able to liberate pressure. But then if you face a different formation or different system, perhaps that touch is going to put you under trouble, right? So at least for me, I guess the nuanced thing within the game and having to adapt, it's like, okay, as if we're sticking with the subject of playing out of the back, it's okay. How can when I enhance my technique with my feet to be able to make it easier for my teammates to be able to use me, regardless of the way that I receive a pass, right? So within that style of play, yes, I've certainly, learned from the greats such as, well, my main influence has been Neuer, but then I also see Ter Stegen, the way that he plays, or even just Courtois sometimes. He's not the greatest with his feet, but whatever it is that he has to do on the field to be able to come out playing. In terms of goalkeeping, I've learned from so many different goalkeepers and so many different styles that in that department, I do a more realistic with what I'm comfortable with and what I know can actually make me successful. Because that's the other thing too. You got to identify what your strengths and perhaps your weaknesses are, and maybe just hone in on those strengths to be able to come out on top. But definitely try and work on the weaknesses that you might have to be able to um, adapt. Really.